I mean, we are just, am I audible? All right. So, we're just chatting before coming in here to this bright place, right? And what really was very phenomenal for me to think about is that meeting the leaders who come in from, reality to well-beings to railroads to, glass, right? I mean, variety of diverse, the set of panelists here. Each one of them have decades of experience doing what they do best. And I'm sure today's discussion is going to be very enriching for all of us to think about how AI has been utilized in specific areas, and more importantly, how diversely it has been utilized. If you recall, a few years ago, if you think about AI, it always felt like this is a research topic. And no normal people needs to touch, but today's it's a common thing. Every moment we breathe, there is AI. Every time I see an ad, there is AI. Every time I see a product, I'm sure it has gone through AI. So what an amazing topic for discussion today. And to kickstart this discussion, let's try and understand some of these areas, how it's getting utilized. So, as we see, there is an enormous impact in last 1 year, the moment we saw the induction of Gen AI, right? Our utilizations increased in a way where we figured out that, oh, I can do this, I can do that, I can create images, I can ask questions, I can solve so many things. And it has become very popular, right? Everybody is excited about what it's bringing to us. So let's get started this amazing discussion with the question to leaders out here, is that what trends that AI they believe is the most impactful, and what is the various industries in the next few years they see this is going to bring in the amazing experiences out of it. So let's start from Arvind from Puravankara.
I think AI is touching every department, every industry. So within real estate also, I'm seeing it on ground. So you start with construction, like real-time monitoring of progress, quality inspection. Before starting the project, doing the survey of the land itself starts with automation, robotics, and a lot of AI is put onto it just to understand how that land would look like in future, like, whenever the rain happens, how the flow will be, understand the elevation of the land, and then design the project accordingly. So that's the basic start. Then, when you get into customer services, there is a bigger role of AI. Understand 360-degree view of the customer and then service the customer using AI. Because today, if you see, everybody has bots, but those bots, I feel they are dumb. They know what they are told. They don't think beyond what they are told. So AI will have a bigger role there to answer, to learn on the go and answer the queries, engage the customer better, and reduce the TAT to any question being asked. So that's one area. Another area. Then you go to HR probably. So AI will have a bigger role to understand whether a profile fits in to a JD. So what kind of psychology you require for that position. Does the profile make sense for that position? There would be a lot of things which a human can't understand, or maybe requires a feed, assist to get started. There AI will have a bigger role.
Fantastic. Just to, maybe ask Arvind the follow-up question to you as a customer. Do you think it's someday we could find an agent where I can ask, tell me whether this property is free with any legal issues or anything?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It will, because all the legal documents and contracts, everything will be dumped in the back end, and AI will be able to go through those details and answer those queries. So I think AI will help in bringing that transparency, which is not there today.
Awesome. Fantastic. I think I'm pretty sure more people like me will be really happy with something like this because we really want peace of mind. Um, you know, I will extend this question to none other than Prasanna here, right? Specifically, he deals with security, cyber security, all of these areas, and I'm sure his perspective on this point will be very amazing as well.
Yeah. So cybersecurity is one of the complex things what we do. And AI today is actually assisting the solutions what we provide. And in fact, it helps in detecting a threat, and then massive amount of data what we process is actually done by AI. So we are heavily dependent on your deep machine learning is one of the concept which is AI driven. Then we have NLP. Through NLP, we translate many of the anomalies what comes, and we provide the solutions. And then also, it helps us in reducing a gap or time gap between a threat actor getting into your network and how fast we can act and stop him. So AI is heavily dependent on a lot of developments, but it helps cybersecurity industry in a big way. And we also use AI in terms of support as well, because that's one of the areas where customers, in fact, need a quick resolution. And there also helps it in a big manner. And then one of the biggest challenge in cybersecurity industry is the configuration or the security risk checks. So AI helps a lot to the customers when we build that, and this actually powers the backend. So this is how we see that trend is actually increasing. And though it is actually, we are already into the 5th year or 6th year of the transformation, but on a long way, we see that this is going to play a big role in terms of how fast, quick we can actually detect a threat and stop it. So this is what from a cybersecurity industry.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, as we become more digital, I think it becomes very preliminary for all of us to make sure we are secure. Rajaneesh, how do you see it's being used in industries like Wabtec? How is AI kind of shaping up there?
Sure. So let me explain. I come from the railroads industry. So predominantly, we do manufacturing of locomotives. We do services of locomotives, and then we also do the metro train, servicing and manufacturing of parts. So really, in the railroads, it's three main focus areas for us. One is about safety. Okay. Second is about efficiency of our operations, what I call as reliability and availability. And third is sustainability. It is basically minimizing carbon footprints. Right? So the example I'm going to talk is, I think we have a product set called Kinetics. Okay. So this product set is deployed across 400 locations worldwide. So the fundamentals of Kinetics is based on, that's what I call one of the biggest trend I see is computer vision. Okay. So what we do is we mount cameras in front of the locomotive, in the top of the locomotive, in the tracks while the locomotives are going. The cameras are on the top, they're on the way side as we call it, which is the side, and actually on the underneath the locos, right? We call it the undercarriage, right? So the images of these locos are basically the secret sauce of it is every inspection is done manually currently, okay, generally. And the whole transformation we are making is how can we make it automatic inspection. So I'll give an example. We have the gearbox has oil leakages. So the images of this gearbox is actually taken. It's actually pushed into the cloud. And then we run a bunch of analytics on it, which basically says, hey, is there a leak? And if so, how have I, what is the gradient of how I have determined it? So once there is a determination of the leak, this goes to our decision-making system, into our services applications, which says, hey, there is a leak in this locomotive. You need to deploy labor force to correct it. So what are we trying to do is, just to give you if there is a leak, the locomotive is stopped, we at least incur a loss of about $50,000 to $100,000 just for moving the loco off the track. So this whole, and think about 20 to 30,000 locos across the world working. This intervention will clearly bring about what I call as transformation to automation, but also our reliability and availability is also handled by this. So this is just one example. and we will go into, wheels and brakes, inspection, and that's where we are going in the loco industry. And of course, as the earlier speakers said, we are doing into the other traditional things of business process automation. But for me, I see this computer vision as the next big thing which is going to transform our transportation industry. Okay.
Fantastic. Let me extend this question to Yash and ask him. Um, what is the kind of challenges which you anticipate with AI security um, that will shape the future of technology and also around data protection, um, privacy? How do you see that?
Yep. So just for context, we are we're in the insurance space, and we help with health insurance, cyber insurance, things like that. One thing that we get scared a lot, specifically like on the health side as well, a lot of people are using AI for agents, where you take actions and do something. And that kind of ties back on the cyber side as well, because when we look at customers and we try to underwrite that, can we insure this customer or not? It's very hard to answer what an AI will do, because human, you can still ask, why did you take this decision, or why did we approve this claim, reject this claim, etc. But now that we are putting AI to work in a lot of places, that's one big challenge, because AI itself is new. People are trying to improve the accuracy, but then when you deploy it in production, where people get impacted, it's even more important that it has to work. Even 99% accuracy is not good enough. So that's something I would say is one big challenge. Obviously, there are a lot of other things on the PII and all those aspects that I let maybe other panelists add more about.
Just a quick question. Are you really using AI to verify our insurance claims?
No, we are, being in the insurance space, we are actually, because we're scared what our customers are doing with AI. So we use it to understand things better, reduce time spent by people, but that human in the loop is something we are still stuck with for now.
I'm really happy that you are scared from customers like us, that what we are going to use it. Very interesting perspective, yes. I think let me extend the question to Arvind about how do you see this, the landscape you are in and also around which, how do you see this entire security, data protection and this shaping up?
I think data, as you know, data is the oil. People, that's the phrase which everybody is using. But data is foundation of everything. So, if we talk about AI can't work if you don't have the right data. So, data sufficiency, data integrity, the data quality, that's critical. So, it starts from there. So, data foundation has to be right. Then, availability of data, access of data, how you control those things. See, with data democratization, everybody wants to see the data. But still, you have to secure the data. So it's a dilemma, So what to expose, what not to expose, how to secure. And I think data security is the biggest challenge, I would say, because everything runs on data and everybody wants the access. So, but what I would say is from AI perspective, I think people are jumping the guns. So, it should not, everybody should not jump into it. It should be a conscious decision, and there should be a real use case or business case to get started. So I think it should be low-hanging fruits you should target first, then get into a full-blown, AI world probably.
I think both of you, Yash and Arvind, pointed out very important thing, how is data being, kind of utilized, where is it secured, how is it transitioning, is there somebody else making use of it? So let me push this question to Prasanna, right, and ask this in terms of, how do you see, companies like Sophos, right, looking forward to create a protection or kind of security around this, such a way that whatever concern which Yash and Arvind is bringing in, I think most of us we have, how does kind of, that gets covered up, and how are the So how is Sophos getting geared up to this kind of challenges?
See, actually, when it comes to AI ML, the biggest thing is the trust, transparency, which is very, very necessary, and governance. If you don't have the proper governance, what happens, data privacy is one of the biggest concern when it comes to AI ML use. Because the rapid growth, which actually happened in the AI area, still we see that, the governments are not ready to have that governance in place. So as a company, like we handle huge amount of data. So we do have our own framework. Since companies like, if you are a GDPR compliance company, okay, you have to follow certain rules, regulations when using AI ML. So as a UK-based company, we do have a strict policy of what to use, what not to use, and there is a governance is actually been implemented even for our own uses, because people today are actually using a lot of AI tools for mailing, other things and all. So we do have a checklist. Everyone has to go through that. At the same time, we see that AI ML is assisting our customers in a big way, but the risk also it poses, like false positive. Again, this is one of the biggest challenges currently, that if the model what we are building is not capable to detect something, it will give a false positive warning. So what happens is, that's the biggest challenge for the companies, and the data model which you are actually creating, that has to be efficient, and it has to be stored in such a way that it is actually your internal employees are the biggest threat as well. Because let's say that the people who are actually building this model, if there is an internal threat, comes from there. So the governance at each level is important for the usage of AI, and the product companies like us, we have to have a checklist of things, and the trust and the transparency has to be maintained, what we believe in.
I think if you talk about sectors like healthcare, fintech, insurance, these false positive are very risky, So accuracy, you can't, 60%, 70% accuracy, 80% accuracy can't serve their business. So I think we can't play with AI if we talk about insurance, healthcare, fintech.
Yeah, totally agree. Not even 99%, I will say. Right. Do you want to take something on this? Do you have some take on this? Okay. Fantastic. Let me move this a little bit on a different context a little bit and say, what are the key challenges which we face when we are adopting, developing, building, or deploying AI, specifically in existing workflow context? So, Saiprasad from Hero FinCorp, can you please shed some light on this, please?
Yeah, thanks. So when we speak about AI in the existing context, I think most of us think that this is the in thing and then we need to jump into it, right? I think Arvind brought up a very good point. Unless you know the use case that you're trying to solve, you really don't know if the solution is AI. Right? So the best way to start off is with a proper use case, the problem that we are trying to solve, and if AI can really provide a solution there. So we come from a lending space. So lending space is like, I'll give you a simple example and then set the context. If someone is trying to buy a two-wheeler, okay, you go to the two-wheeler showroom and then you say, I'm interested in so-and-so bike model, and then I want to buy it. Then the two-wheeler dealer will say, okay, we can finance it, and then there's a financial sitting there. Now there are 3 or 4 dilemmas for the customer and the financier. For the customer, the dilemma will be whether I'll be getting the right interest rate, whether I'll be getting the right loan amount, the value for the bike, etc. For the financier, it's all about risk, right? Like Yash pointed out, even in the insurance, it's all about risk. It's about, is the person who's taking the bike or who's taking the loan from me eligible enough to get that amount? Will he be paying back in time, etc.? So now when we look at all these dilemmas, there are a lot of gray areas here that needs to be solved. So if you go back to the olden days, the loan process or this entire process of applying for a loan and getting the amount back into your account used to take a huge time. That's because all the checks and balances, the underwriting, the risk profile, everything had to be done manually. And now, thanks to AI, there are a lot of models in place. But when it comes to adoption of these models, to what extent you can take it? Right? Like someone was asking, can it be 85% or a 99% or a 100%? To what extent we can take it? You know, it's always a risk-reward ratio where you have as to how much of technology can you use in your process, and then what is the risk of not using it, and are you getting the right reward for the risk that you're taking? Because everything is an investment and a huge cost. Now, what we do, we do have a calculated approach. There's already a set process in the industry where we go pilot it in areas that is less risky, see the outcomes, and if the outcome is scalable, we are happy with the outcomes, then we scale it across the market, right? That's what we do for any model. But when it comes to AI, we need to think about the digital transformation aspect of it. So in any of your industries, if you are in the technology space, there is a digital transformation happening in 3 or 4 areas. One is in the way we are moving from a cloud to a hybrid model, from a totally data-centric approach to a hybrid model. And then your architecture landscape is also changing because you're moving from monolithic to a microservices kind of architectures. The way you're developing is also changing. It used to be a waterfall model of development, and now we are into a more of a agile and then the DevOps approach. The fourth element, which is very, very important for all the organizations, is the change management. How are we able to manage the change? Because you can't discard your workforce and then suddenly bring in millennials to adapt new technology, right? So how do you bring in the change in the organization while we are making these transformations? Also making sure that the workforce is also transforming to be able to adopt to the new technologies. I think that's the key thing, and that there are a lot of models in place that we adopt and embrace to make it happen. Yeah.
Fantastic. I think I will, given, specifically to the context of, how do you deploy to existing workflow, I will ask the same question to Mr. Vininder Baweja. How is this, how do you do this in, say, Saint-Gobain or any other context? How do you see this specific perspective of building, deploying, and then specifically adopting to existing workflows, AI use cases?
Sure. I think some of my colleagues have already spoken about it around the data. Yeah. So when we look at AI, we believe that unless we have a very strong foundation of the right and a single source of truth of data, it's very difficult to be able to build any insights on top. And that is from the point of, whether it is point from data generation or point of processing or point of consumption of data. Throughout this, there has to be some amount of moderation or harmonization required, and some processes around how you do your, classically what we term as master data management. And that's enough, that's itself is a big subject in itself in terms of how do you govern this across various levels. And especially with the DPTP coming in anytime enforceable, it puts a lot of pressure back as well. In our context, we are a group of businesses. In Saint-Gobain, while people know us as glass, but in any construction cycle, from bare land, and Mr. Arvind will relate to it, that you start with plasters, which we make. You start with then the interiors. When you come to interiors, you have glass put in as the partitions. You have the gypsum ceilings here. You have kitchen. We have kitchen shutters. We have wardrobes. All of that. So throughout the journey of the construction, there are certain common elements which come into play. And unless I have a single view of that common element, and that common element to us as Saint-Gobain is an architect, which is common across these businesses. Interior designer is common. Acoustic consultant is common. A contractor is a common element as well. So unless I carry a good 360 view across these contextual elements which are running pan all my BUs, I cannot have a good 360 view. And that to me is so very important, because that will help me drive a disproportionate high value, leveraging a single builder and giving a consistent experience for all what we offer for that site.
Fantastic. Vijay Sharma from Silver Oak Health. How do you see this adoption, deployment, and obviously delivering values to existing workflow processes?
Okay, so we come from a mental health space, and I think so. I understand everybody's viewpoint, but I think how we are little different is because we are dealing with real humans at the other side of it. And most of the times, humans who come and seek mental health solutions are not probably very happy. Okay, either they have some or other challenges going in their life. So when we have to provide AI solutions for that, it starts from as simple as being empathetic to, in the end, provide something which somebody finds of value. Okay, I'll give an example. For example, the simple, one of the most common use case which everybody started of Gen UI was the chatbots. That you come here, whether it's a dealer, whether it's a financial company, they provide what are the options that we have. If we have to put a chatbot in our apps and portal and somebody coming here, we don't know, he might be feeling suicidal or he might be feeling under a lot of stress. So if the chatbot has to suggest something, okay, why don't you try this or why don't you reach out to them? It has to be genuine. It has to be feel like, okay, it's, if the chatbot would not have been there, it would have been a human. It should be as empathetic. So mimicking that behavior of a computer or an AI to the human, I think we are still very, very far away from there. And we still feel like that probably in the end, we are better off offering a counselor as a, maybe the first level of, you can say, interaction rather than a chatbot. But we have started certain experiments where it's not about directly dealing with the user, but maybe with the data we have, can we provide better interventions? Can we learn something from how, in general, a counselor responds to all? And can we more equip our counselors better to provide these kind of responses? So we are seeing slower adoption compared to other industries due to, I think, one is being a human part of it, then the regulatory challenges as well.
Fantastic. Mr. Baweja, what are the strategic consideration for tech leaders like you when you're thinking about AI-driven features, solution, products? What are the things which you go through as a considerations for make sure you are going in a direction which is gonna become enabler for you and your customers as well?
Sure. So I think my colleague already touched upon the change management part as well. When I say change management, I think that to me is one of the biggest, and that change is around people, that change is around the process, that change is around the org structure itself. Because I cannot have an AI throw up insights for my sales teams for intelligent selling, what to sell and where. And the salesman, because of his past conditioning, is not at all that tech savvy or does not believe in those insights. Or for that matter, if I'm finding the defects on the glass or defects on my gypsum boards and saying that, these are the potential causes which my vision camera is picking up from my product and linking it back to at least 500 odd parameters which my gypsum board goes through in the assembly line, that it is because of out of 500, these 10 are causing this defect, what the vision camera has been trained on AI. And the people in quality say that, no, I know the best and I don't trust this. So I think it's a case of the classic marriage between the mindsets of people helping and coming forward to train those and making it more and more intelligent. And it is not to be perceived as a threat. And there on that light, what we have done is, whether it is manufacturing, whether it is the sales side, it is often said that these big transformations like that of AI would happen when you have purple people. And what is purple people is red as a color signifies ambition, aspiration, which is if it is business, while blue is something which is more trust, depth, knowledge, which is IT. You combine red and blue is what the purple people come. So we have to encourage the behaviors of adopting digital on both business and IT side. We have instituted what we call as the Purple Club in Saint-Gobain, which rewards those behaviors on both the sides, whether it is business who can think digitally, and what are those champions and sparks of people who adopt digital, and on the IT side who understand more business. So we have instituted this club, and we will be getting into those Purple Star Awards, and we are on publishing leaderboards to say that how do you encourage those behaviors to drive that change. I think it has to be more visible, encouraging more behaviors to drive that change. To me, that's the most strategic area which can come as a roadblocker if not done well.
Just to follow up on the same topic, Vijay, right? I mean, how do you build this strategic consideration, specifically given the industry you are in, which is very softer side of it. It's not very black and white, right? To be honest, it's we don't know, I mean, which part, right? So how do you, when you have to build features, solutions, what are the strategic consideration you go with?
Okay. I'll also connect it a little in line with what he said. So I think a lot of things what we have seen across the industries as well as our company is that whenever like the AI came, everybody wanted to do some POCs, do some experiment. I think everybody started with the chat GPT. You have to see everybody for doing homework or other things. In the organization also, we have seen people coming up and trying a lot of experiments. Okay. But are the experiments related to business objectives? They are not thinking. Are the experiments can be productized? Can they be put on in a real and real environment and can be helpful for somebody? So we saw a lot of these things happening, a lot of people trying out of it. And till there you have a support of a manager, you have a support of your team leader, or at least you two people come together and they say, okay, let's try. But when you have to put it into production, when you have to make it really live, so that because then you have resources, you have to spend time, money and all. I think there we have seen if you link it to any business objective, whether it's a team objective or whether it's an organizational objective, then it becomes easier for people also to relate. Okay, if I do this, then okay, this KPI will improve, or this thing will go down, or this particular performance will improve. Or if you link it any business at a larger level objective, of doing this, maybe our sales will be better. Okay, then you get together your salespeople, get together your technology people, and both work together, then there is output. I think that's why a lot of these things starts up be as a POC, don't never see the light of the day, never seen to being production, but linking them to a real outcomes and then tracking the progress. Okay, we did this for 1 month. Okay, is it better than the human process that we're doing earlier? Okay, if there's a slight improvement, let's try to do it better. So I think all of this, doing small POCs, trying it, improving it, and all is what we have seen is helping us in increasing the adoption.
Thank you. Mr. Saiprasad, it's in financial industries, right? How do you, what are your consideration as a tech leader which you follow for, any AI feature, products, or any enhancement which you do it for you?
Yeah, when we started off with AI, I think we had two simple parameters to look for. Is a human interaction required for a transaction to flow, for the workflow to flow forward? If yes, then yes, we need to have a human interaction. If it can be replaced with a technology, now what is the right technology to do that? So let me give an analogy. How many of you visit your bank branches very regularly? Anyone? No one, right? So the older concept of a bank was where there was a branch, and if you had to do any transaction, you had to go to the bank to do a transaction. So over the period, it has evolved. Right now, we don't think that there is a human interaction required for you to do any transaction, right? So what we have selected is two areas where if a human interaction is required, we'll definitely need to have the salespeople or the field people there with the customer. And wherever human interaction is not required, then pick the right solution, automate it, iterate, till the state where the customer experience on the digital platform is the best in class, right? So most of us might be using many apps on our mobile phone, but you stick only to some apps because of the experience you have, the customer experience or the digital experience that you have on the app. So our strategy is twofold. One is to whichever application we are building or the digital experience that we are building for the end customer has to be best in class. And when we talk about customers, these are not about digital savvy customers. These are people who are applying for loan. It can be from a tier 3 city of India to the metros of India. Anyone should be able to understand what they're applying for. Making finance accessible to every part of India is our goal. So we keep that as our parameter, the basic fundamental tenet that we follow. And then based on that becomes our basic fabric before we implement or develop any applications. So what it gives is two-way edge on making sure that we think about the customer first, the context of the customer first, see if a human interaction is required, and replace it with technology. Now, there are also some of the regulations. Regulations will also help us in putting these together. For example, there was a vernacular language implementation regulation that came in India from RBI, where it said, if we are giving a loan to someone, we should make sure that we give the instructions in their native language, because India is, it's not just Hindi and English, there are many other native languages. So now that has become mandatory. So the drive or our strategy is also determined by the regulations that are coming up in the market. We need to be thinking of the future as to what kind of regulations might come in to make the customer experience happy, making sure that legally it is viable, and of course the data security, like my other partners have mentioned, security is the key. So that, because we are owning a lot of customer data, making sure that everything is safe and secure.
Appreciate it, thank you. I mean, while we talked about variety of topics here from how do you take decisions, let's jump back to one specific question about how is AI being used for identifying threats? How do we create responses for them once we identify? And then, I think more importantly, how is this shaping up real-time security monitoring across different sectors, right? So let me start this with Yash. How do you see this entire landscape? How do you stay proactive? You are able to respond back to the threats which are coming on the way.
Right. So I'll take this from a cyber insurance perspective. So when any customer comes to us, we have a job to kind of tell that how much risk are they sitting on in terms of cybersecurity. Can they get breached by attack? What kind of attack surface exists, etc. So I'll focus more on that part. I'll let maybe my colleague from Sophos talk more about how the response is done, because they are the experts at it. But what we do is we have to track what is going on in the market across a large set of companies. In fact, we track the cybersecurity posture for 100,000 companies in India, and that is a lot of data to make sense of. And that's something where AI is helping us a lot to classify, different kinds of findings that we get, different data points we get across dark web, across the servers we find which are exposed to the internet. And it allows us to benchmark that when a customer comes in, that where do they stand in the security posture? Are they the top 1% of the whole industry, and it's a good risk for an insurance company, or are they in the bottom 10-20%, and they need to improve their security before they can get the insurance. So that's one place where generative AI and even just regular AI on classifying a lot of these data points is helping us. And I'll let maybe others talk about the response and other parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Mr. Prasanna, Yash is looking out for your advice on this. Why don't you take this?
Yeah, so let me tell you that, there is something called, we recently launched adaptive attack protection, okay? Now, how does it work is like, suppose there is a hacker which has actually come into your network by hands-on. So what happens is your lot of security systems inside the network, what it does is, like, they wait for someone to intervene. Now, by using adaptive technology, what we do is, we actually simulate, or we might actually go in depth of the nature of the attack, and actually the controls can be activated dynamically. For example, let's say that some hacker is trying to exploit a vulnerability which is there already. So what this adaptive model will do that, he will actually sense what kind of attack is that particular attack. And according to that, it will change its nature dynamically to stop that attacker further actually exploiting that vulnerability. That's number one case. Number two is, like in any network, or let's say that you are all like customers are there. So huge amount of telemetry which comes. For example, we have a cloud where all this security alerts comes. Can you believe that we process 200 terabytes of data every day, the threat data what we call, and 200 terabytes of data, and finding those alerts, critical attacks, finding is actually requires a lot of back-end process. So AI enables us to find out that within a fraction of minutes. So we have launched a service which is called MDR. Now that is something which is very unique, where humans and AI is working together. For example, let's say there is an attack which has started in your organization. This is an initial stage. So what happens in cybersecurity is that how fast you can attend, stop the attacker. So AI helps us detecting that threat, that is, which we claim to, within a minute's time, we can actually get to that attack, and then that will be passed on to the human analysts, okay, which is actually critical, maybe 0 day, maybe we have not seen that, or it might require an investigation. So what happens is, without having AI in place, okay, detecting a threat within a minute's time is impossible, because the amount of data which we collect, the telemetry, is in terabytes. And when you talk about the attackers, nowadays, if you look at the most favorable thing is like, which has happened is AI to the attackers. Now, it's a favorite subject of them. In fact, we are all talking about AI, but when it comes to the hackers, they love it, right? And if you see the spamming today, is actually being done by AI. Most of the things is shifting there. And as being a company, we need to detect how actually, this massive scale they can launch an attack. It's not that small, because they are also using AI, and there is no controlled uses for them. And plus, nowadays, what happens is they can target a target-based attack they can do by using AI. For example, we have a lot of social media posts, we have a lot of social media activities and all. They can actually identify, they put it into their system, and they can identify what actually this person is interested in. And they can launch an attack specifically for, let's say, there's a top management is there, finance is there. So they can actually launch. So what happens is, when it comes to cybersecurity, detecting those kind of attacks early actually is very, very important for us. So that's where, we see that there's a collaboration required. We cannot rely only on AI again, because that will, we also see that a lot of false positives also come in. So there's a balance which is required at this moment of time when we talk about AI being used in the service industry and in the cybersecurity industry as well.
Fantastic, thank you. Mr. Arvind, as a tech leader, what are your consideration consumer experiences?
I think as a tech leader, I have two consumers, like, customers are consumers and employees are also consumers. So how AI can help employees to, be more efficient, how it can make their life easy. That's one aspect. Second aspect is from customer perspective, how AI can help me engage customer better, respond to the customer better. So that is second aspect. So as I said earlier, I believe in starting with low-hanging fruit, like, because when you see the results, then, there is a buy-in. So from leadership, you will get buy-in when you show the results. So with AI, I took the low-hanging fruit case, like audio analysis. We had a lot of people, we have call center, which interacts with the customers. So we had manual audio analysis earlier. People used to go through audios, listen those audios, and, rate those audios. But there was always a possibility of bias and misinterpretation also. So there we have, we have tied up with a startup. We are we have, deployed an AI platform to do that AI analysis of all the audio recordings. So going through all audio recordings for manually is difficult, So just for the sake of, checkbox, you can say that all are audited, but it doesn't happen. So AI is helping us to audit those audios. It is helping us to understand the training needs of the call center team. So who is doing good, why he is doing good, and if someone is not performing, what is lagging. So AI is helping a lot there for us. We also want to extend it to the complex scenarios also, like understanding the quality of construction by just taking the picture or video. So there we want to deploy, AI, where we can inspect the quality of the construction so that, see, we give our projects as a turnkey projects to our partners to build. So we get the invoices based on the progress. But is that progress meeting the quality parameters? That's who is going to check. So there, I think AI is the second use case where we want to heavily deploy AI and believe in AI to help us, to reduce our burn for not a quality progress.
All right, thank you. Um, I think it's a very interesting conversation we started from understanding where is AI heading into it. We went through a bunch of challenges ahead of us, and also we looked into some of the, strategic um, thought process which our leaders go through. Uh, while this is important, I think I wanted to quickly grab, some thoughts from these leaders about how do you prepare your development, your tech teams, because this entire thing is rapidly evolving, right? So if each one of you could quickly, share quick 2 pointers on how are you catching up with this rapidly evolving space, right? What do you do with your tech teams, right? I mean, maybe I can start with Mr. Saiprasad.
I think two things. One is there should be an intent from the team to learn. We first create that intent, the inquisitive, and then we also provide the right trainings with the examples from the field, so that people will get interested in understanding and then upskilling themselves. Now, because what we also feel is that this technology will keep emerging, the people remain the same. All that we need to make sure is that we provide them the right opportunities, show them the right examples, provide the directions, and the upskilling happens by itself.
Appreciate it. What are your thoughts, Mr. Rajaneesh?
Hey, was it for me? Sorry.
Yeah, for you.
So I think, see, two major things I would say is, one is how do you build a AI-based culture in the team, right? So that is one of the paramount thing. Second is how do you build the infrastructure and a reference architecture which can be followed across, across organizations. And the first point I think is what we have done is we have done a central advanced technology group, which is basically not just responsible for AI. Any new technologies will be coming from the group. This group is actually responsible for training. We talk about only the development teams, but I think training the senior leaders onto different levels becomes very paramount, because otherwise you won't have the right level of conversation. So I think this team does two things. It evangelizes new technology, trains the various levels of the organization, and then that builds a whole AI culture, right? And then the second point is there is a central architecture group which basically says, how do I have a reference architecture for how AI should be built in the organization? Especially we face a lot of challenges with machine ML ops, for example. How do you, have the DevOps kind of pipeline integrated across? So I think there's a lot of technicalities also involved as much as strategy. So I think that is where we are focusing a lot on the teams. So I think those are the two things, so the culture and the technology is the secret sauce to get it going.
Appreciate it. Vijay, why don't you share your quick thoughts, and maybe I'll take few thoughts from Yash as well after you.
So we did an experiment. I would like to, more of an example, how do we start it? So sometime around last year, when this everything was very, at least in the Gen I space, was getting started. So we are approximately 200 people organization, where primarily a lot of us being mental health are counselors, and counselors are not very tech savvy, not very computer savvy as such, because the kind of they're doing. And on one side, we have 20-25 of people who are from the tech side, who knows computers, at least who knows what is AI, if I have to implement it, how I can implement. But they don't understand the business context. So what we did was that we organized a 2-day hackathon. We asked people, at least the business side people, to come with your business problems. Don't think whether the AI can solve it or not solve it. Just think of a problem which you feel like that is the biggest problem today. And what we did was we assigned 2 members from our technology team to each team, each business team. So overall, we had around 10, 12 teams coming from different departments, each having two. So now there's a combination of somebody who can implement it, will get a POC, at least to see it. And then on the other side, you have a real business problem, which was till today was not solved. At least they have a hope that using AI, it can solve. Then they did a lot of brainstorming, and then before the hackathon, we give them, okay, whatever expertise do you need, whatever data do you need in your space to solve it. I think that was very successful experiment. In the end of the 2 day, we had at least, if not 10, we had 6 or 5 solutions coming out of it. And then till now also, I think that was last year, we still have 3 solutions which are in the production, which are working. And we are planning also to do a similar exercise now, because now people's, you can say, understanding has increased multifold compared to last year. And then they are also like the team has also increased in the size. So I think this kind of experiments also help, because the time shot is very small. Somebody don't have to think about a lot of days. Okay, at least I will come something. And I have a very dedicated 2 days. I don't have any work. I have to just make sure using this technology, I can solve even if a small bit of my business problem. At least I have some output to go back and make it live.
Yash, your thoughts, please.
Thank you. I think I really relate with Rajneesh's point that you need to start with the leadership even being trained on some of these tools. And what I have seen is like you have to lead by example. You have to explore these new tools and then create leaders within the org that also start exploring this and spread that basically as an infection because the speed at which these new things keep coming, a lot of time your training modules can't really keep up. And the second bit which I have observed is having the tech easily usable. So having the tools in place, having maybe some API keys or whatever people need to explore these new platforms as they keep coming is also very important, because if we put a lot of red tape around these tools, then people don't end up playing around or need a lot of approvals to check it. Obviously, data, like the production data should not go into these experiments, but in the right sandbox, having the scope to experiment is pretty helpful.
Fantastic. I think there is a saying which says power comes with responsibility. There is a computer scientist and AI researcher, Fifi Lee, who says AI is the way for us to elevate the human abilities, what we have got, but we need to be very careful with that. This entire space is changing very fast, and we need to be very frugal in our approach on how we experiment and how we adopt them. We need to be always cautious about our actions. With that, I know this discussion can continue for next few more hours, but given the time frame, I think it was a fantastic thoughts, all of you leaders. And given this diverse set of industries, it was definitely very enriching for all of us to hear you all here. Thank you.